I think the Russian actions can be described as more than meddling. I think Dan Coats, the president's personally appointed head of national intelligence, described it as a grave threat to our country, to our democratic institutions, and it deserved much more of a strong response than the president provided.
What do you think the implication of him describing it the way he did is, long term, or even short term?
This has been a tough week for President Trump and a tough week for the United States. The president's standing around the world is the lowest any American president has had, certainly in modern memory. In Finland, an American ally, traditionally hostile to Russia, when the summit was held, Finns by 75% hold a negative view of President Putin. Of President Trump, they have an 83% negative view. That's true all around the world. It's dragging down the president, and it's dragging our country down with them. America's strength has been based on the reality around the world, the perception and the reality, that here, unlike all past history, was a great power with values. Mistakes are made, of course. We're all human. Humans, institutions, and persons are all fallible. But America stood for something, freedom, opportunity for all. And it was the basis of building the international order from which we have so much benefited. And the president is tearing that down, and our country's coming down with it.
Let's talk about that, because there is certainly some sort of change in what has been the status quo since the end of the last World War.
Yes.
Are there some reasons that you can see for breaking down some of the change? Is it fair to say that we haven't always gotten the best deal on trade? You may not agree with how he's going about it, but is it fair to say that maybe it is time for some change in some areas, or do you think that's not fair either?
I think that is very fair. Overall, we have benefited enormously from the spectacular increase in international trade that has occurred since the Second World War. But there have been exceptions, and China is one of them. The president is absolutely right that China is violating the rules which it agreed to abide by, has taken advantage of its so-called developing nation status, and should be called to account. The problem is that a tariff program allegedly grounded in national security, not following the procedures of the World Trade Organization, is the least effective way to deal with China. And just at the time when we should be rallying our democratic allies in Europe and in Asia to join us in confronting China on these issues, we are in fact alienating and antagonizing all of those people. This is not just the Europeans, who are historic allies with whom we have strong bonds of blood. It's countries like Japan and others in Asia. They all have a common interest, and we have furthered that away. The president's decision to withdraw from the Trans-Pacific Partnership was a grievous error. The best favor anyone could have done to China.
It was never going to happen. Go look at the DNC and look at all those signs that were against TPP. No matter who won the presidency, TPP wasn't going to happen. I know everybody brings it up all the time, but well, the whole country, for whatever reason, has gone against free trade. Maybe that's why President Trump actually made it to the presidency. Can I ask, Steve Bannon argued yesterday that President Trump in some ways is trying to save the post-World War II order, especially when it comes to, for example, NATO, that Europe had turned into a protectorate because we are spending all the money on their defense, and that getting them to actually pay for it equalizes them and raises them.
Well,
do you buy that?
I respectfully and strongly disagree with almost everything you just said. First off, I was the Senate Majority Leader when the Senate ratified the World Trade Agreement. The arguments you just made about the TPP were made then. But national leaders made the effort to persuade the American people and a majority in the Senate to ratify the World Trade Agreement. If you have the nation and the world's leader denigrating it, yes, people follow that. If you have a strong, aggressive national leader you can
Hillary
enact
Clinton
such.
would have passed. That would have happened. TPP would have happened under Hillary Clinton.
I'm not sure whether it would have or not. I believe she was wrong to reverse her position and come out against it in the primary campaign because she thought she needed it to defeat Bernie Sanders. I believe that was a mistake. But the president made a further mistake when he withdrew from it. And so I just don't agree with the premise that you set forth.
Sir, if you go back to what you said in the beginning, which was pretty serious about the president and his current status after his trips, I'm pretty sure he's not going to call you on this, but if he called you today and said, okay, how do I turn this around? How do I make our country feel a little bit better? How do I get my ratings more positive? What kind of advice would you give him?
Well, the first advice I would give him is to stop denigrating our allies, stop this practice of using a national security provision to impose tariffs on our friends and allies. Secondly, say the truth about Putin, which all of his advisors have said. Is there any doubt in anybody's mind here that if Barack Obama had said in Helsinki facing Putin what Trump said, that Mike Pompeo, John Bolton, all of the Republicans in the Senate would have done dozens of television interviews, have written dozens of op-ed articles denouncing him as weak and feckless and not representing the United States, change the position with respect to Putin, accept what his own advisors have said, and what the president has known for a year and a half, that Putin personally approved these actions against the United States, and deal with that directly and treat our allies as allies and friends. Of course they should be encouraged. You talked about contributions to NATO. They made a commitment to increase to 2% by 2024. They are on line to meet those targets. Some countries already have done so. The president's actions did not change their policies one bit, as both President Macron, the Italian leader, and others said after the meeting. We're on target to meet our goals. Yes, they should be prodded. No, they have not done all they should. But the way to deal with them is not as hostile foes, but as friends and allies with whom we should work toward a common goal because we share common values.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.